Today we have with us a new face. It's Brother Mitch Ramkissoon. He is working with Redemption Prison Ministry. Welcome, Mitch.
Thank you very much, Richard.
Mitch, maybe you can tell us a little bit about Redemption Prison Ministry. It's been a lot of years that we've been supporting Divine Hope Seminary and some of the brothers that are working there. But this is something new for the URC. But maybe you could just describe the ministry in general.
Okay. Well, Redemption Prison Ministry has actually been around for quite a while already, from way back in the 90s. Started with Rudy DeVries and some others, some like-minded individuals who saw the vision. They originally, people might be more familiar with the name Cornerstone Bible Institute. That's what they were called before. But then apparently it was explained to me that people got confused, especially the prisoners, that it was an actual institute where they could get a diploma and so on. So they decided to change the name to Redemption Prison Ministry. Hans van Dudewaard is the regional director, and they have right now 4 prison pastors, and myself, Rudy DeVries, Marty Slingerland, and Richard van der Vaart out in the east there. The goal is to reach prisoners incarcerated with the gospel and to bring hope and light into these otherwise very dark lives. The ministry is Canadian and supported by Canadian churches. They're on the offering lists of many URCs and few Canadian Reformed churches. So they're actually trying to reach out to the Canadian Reformed churches more.
Yeah, that's great. Maybe you could explain some of the work that's actually being done in the prisons. Do they hold services? Do they have Bible studies, English classes, or how are they able to get into the jails?
Okay, so the inroad into the jail is they have these what they call starter packages in the prisons itself, available to all the prisoners and also in the chapels with the chaplains. The prisoners have the opportunity to take these back to their cell. There's an original Bible study in there, just a lesson 1 on the book Ultimate Questions. They do that lesson and then they fill out a request form. Telling a little bit about themselves, where they are as Christians, things like that, and what their interests are, and so on. That gets sent to the head office in Cambridge, Ontario, and so they more or less, by doing that, register for the courses, and then they begin to get lesson after lesson as they complete them and send them in. Each lesson comes with a self-addressed and a stamped envelope and it will go back to Redemption in Cambridge. And they also have people that mark the lessons, including the prison pastors, but individuals in churches. And they go back. A progress report goes to Redemption in Cambridge. Let's see. So I guess that helps us as prison pastors to get a foot in the door, in that we can go to the prisons and request visits with our students, as it were. And then so we can have communication with them. The thing is, like, every prison has a chaplain hired by the government, or chaplains, and they're really the guys who you want to keep a good relationship with. And they can allow you to have more interaction with the prisoners or less, depending on the situation or your relationship or whatever. You through them, you can be allowed to lead chapels or do more counseling with prisoners and so on. But normally, we would have access to our students, and then if you can connect with others around, if you see people listening or so on, or you're walking by and you can take up some conversation with them, that's how you make more connections. Again, the goal is bring the gospel, bring the gospel, bring the gospel.
So a lot of the, once men show an initial interest and finish that first lesson, and you have contact with them, then you would go in on a regular basis and meet with them individually, and then with the idea of a bigger group?
Yeah, I guess individually to start with, and there's a lot to learn and to figure out, and every prison pastor does things differently a little bit, and every ministry in every different prison is a little bit different depending on what you're allowed to do. So yeah, it would be wonderful to have like to lead a Bible study with these men and so on. I think there would be opportunities to do that, but I think mostly at the beginning it's just one-on-one.
Okay.
So
Now, Mitch, this is something that you are new to. I know you're just beginning in,
yeah,
and you've been a pastor in Western Canada for many years.
yeah.
And I know that this is something just a few months ago that you accepted. So this is an exciting chapter for you. Maybe you could just describe that journey, how the Lord led you into this.
Yeah, well, as many of you would know, I suffered burnout last year after 14 years in Ponoka as the pastor, and but then I was able to, by the Lord's gracious blessing, I was able to things turned around. I was able to get back onto the pulpit about September last year, and yeah, one it was all ready to resume my ministry in that church and so on. But at that point, I was also kind of thinking, I wonder if it would be good for a little bit of a change. I know people advised me that sometimes when you suffer burnout, a change is good and so on. So I've been praying about, for the Lord's leading, way He would have me go. And then Brother Steve Sweats from Ontario, he phoned me up one day and he said, "What do you think about prison ministry?" And Rich, at that moment, I had never thought of prison ministry before in my life, never seen myself doing that. But at that moment, it felt like a bright light went on, a switch was turned, and I started to think about my life. I have all this experience under my belt. I've learned all this doctrine. But I've also had opportunities to teach, and I enjoy teaching in the church. Not only catechism with and Bible studies in the church, but also we've had an influx of people from outside, and I really enjoyed teaching them like from scratch, from the from the basis, from the this is a Bible kind of thing. And some of my life experience as well too. I came from an unbelieving background, became a Christian much later in life, had my struggles as a young man with alcohol and different things. And some people might know that the legal system did touch my family. I have a son who was incarcerated for a time. So I right away as the light went on, I thought of all those things. The experience we went through as a family, knowing a little bit about the legal system and the court system, and how painful this whole experience is for people who are incarcerated. Putting it all together, it just seemed like this was where the Lord was leading. And it was funny. Everybody I talked to, and I mentioned this to, and I sought the advice of fellow pastors, colleagues, and friends, and so on. And I never heard a negative word. They all said, "I think this will be good for you. I think you are gifted for it. I think your life experiences and everything just seems to fit. It just seems to be the right direction to go." So I pursued it and accepted the call. I think it was November last year. And so, yeah, unfortunately, it hasn't gone the way I would like to. I would have liked to jump right in there, but with the COVID virus and the restrictions, I did the training with Pastor Marty Slingerland in BC over the phone. I'm still hoping to be able to go there for a week and tag along with him and watch him work as well too. But when all that is going to be happening and when I'll be able to actually enter into the prisons is unknown at this time. So.
Yeah, I know for a lot of ministries right now, a lot of things are on hold. And I know in Divine Hope too, a lot of I think it's all online now. So, well, we need to pray about that, that the Lord would open doors for you now and that process would go quickly. You need some clearances yet that has to go through?
Yeah, so to be able to visit freely into the prisons with our students, you need a security clearance, and you apply for that, and they do a whole bunch of background checks and so on. And if you're approved, then you have a badge that you can then wear in any prison and walk in. And not that you can walk in freely, but
Right.
they don't have to do. You don't have to go through the whole process to visit as normal people do. So it's a really important thing for me to get. And my fear as well is that even if they were to open the prisons and I didn't have the security clearance, then I'm still stuck. And
Yeah.
for something like this, it wouldn't be exactly a high priority for them. And I was advised, not to nag, not to call and ask, anything, because then that just pushes you further to the bottom.
Sure.
So I'm just waiting patiently and praying, and absolutely, yeah, I do covet the prayers of God's people that this would materialize. And for myself and all the prison pastors as well too, and including those from Divine Hope, I think we do crave the prayers of God's people to, that the restrictions would be lifted, and we'd be able to get in again and do the work that we really feel very urgent in our hearts to do.
Mm.
So.
Now, Mitch, the idea is that you're going to be basically going to new areas, right? You're kind of a regional director, and you're going to be working in several jails. Could you describe that? What that's going to
Okay.
look like?
So I was hired as the Prairie Region pastor out here for Redemption, which means that I will cover primarily Alberta. And in Alberta, I'll be starting off with two main prisons, Bowden Institution and Edmonton Institution, which both are maximum security, or federal prisons, I should say. Edmonton is more maximum, and Bowden has a medium and a minimum. So yeah, and so I'll be starting with those two, but then my part of my calling is to try to get my foot in the door in as many other prisons as I can. There's Drumheller, Stony, what is that called now? Out near Grand Prairie, I forget what it's called now. So to get my foot in the door there, and in provincial prisons, remand centers, and so on. And then at the beginning here, I'm also covering Manitoba and Saskatchewan. So there's several prisons there, and we have students there. So I'll be, I think, I don't know if immediately, but I'll have to be making monthly trips there to visit the students there as well. And again, trying to make connections there in with the prisoners and with the prisons and so on. But yeah, for now, I think at the get-go, once I can get started, it would be Bowden and Edmonton Institution, the maximum prison.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Sounds like there's a lot of places where you could be working.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
There's a lot of opportunities, and just I haven't gotten a lot of contact with prisoners yet, but the few letters that I've gotten, you see how important this work is, and under the Lord's blessings, what can be accomplished. Because you get people at I guess the lowest point in their lives right now. They have nowhere to go. They've tried the rest, and they've just hit brick wall after brick wall. And here is an opportunity to say, hey, there is hope. There is another way. And, the thing with what you hear again is there's a revolving door. And a lot of these guys, they don't have families, they don't have a support system. Sometimes there's mental illness there. There is abuse, substance abuse. And quite often they do their time and they have all the best intentions, but they come out and they have nowhere to go and no support system. And one of the wonderful things about Redemption is they have a system where they try to reintegrate if the prisoners are willing. They try to offer support through churches, through me working with them once they're out and so on, to try to continue the work. There's not a large percent of success because, as I said, these guys have a lot of stuff that they're struggling with. But the hope is that with church support, with if you can help them to get their feet back on the ground, the chances of them continuing is much higher. So, that's one of the goals of redemption.
Wonderful. That is
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
That's a story I hear again and again from those working in prison ministry. And my own family has been touched by this as well. And I know family members of mine have been blessed through ministry and jail in the U.S. jail system. So yeah, we'll really be praying for you, praying that the Lord opens doors into the different jails, and also with the different clearances. Is there anything else, Mitch, that you could that we should be praying for as a church?
Oh, brother, I do covet the prayers of God's people for my wife. She is a tremendous support to me, and a tremendous blessing in my life. But as many would know, she suffers with ongoing chronic illness called ulcerative colitis, which has developed into chronic fatigue and has brought on some other things as well, depression. She suffers with anxiety and so on. So, prayer for a season of strength for her, or for healing, if it be the Lord's will. We've kind of made peace with the fact that maybe it's not the Lord's will that she's going to be healed from this, but just for His sustaining grace in her life, that she will be able to do more. Right now, she's not bedridden, but she's housebound. She doesn't go anywhere. On top of that, with the COVID virus and with her illness, her illness has left her seriously compromised as far as having little to no immune system. Oh. So, one of our concerns is that if she were to contract this COVID virus, it would not go well for her. She has respiratory issues as well too. So, just prayer for her, for the Lord's sustaining grace in her life, for strength, and if it be His will, healing. So
absolutely,
that's something we definitely crave prayer for.
Well, wonderful, brother. We'll continue to remember you, and for those of you who don't know you, is there a website that they can go to, Mitch? Is there a place they can go to for more information, or will that be coming down the road, do you think?
Yeah, people can always go to the Redemption Prison Ministry website, and you can get information about the ministry, a little bit about us.